lies, blatant, disgusting lies.
They were. I say false pretenses because that just seems a little more polite, and I try to be a polite guy.
No, you are eloquent. I got it.
Yeah. Okay, so there were these lies. So we went to war and we did that, and that was maybe equivalent to the Civilian Conservation Corps, and it also, by the way, took care of a lot of that demographic. It got a lot of young males off doing real working kind of stuff, albeit in the military, albeit on a different continent, but nevertheless, it minimized the unemployment problem that would have arisen because of the outsourcing that was going on of IT to India at that point, the exit of much of America's manufacturing to Asia, and so forth. Now the housing bubble, I like to think of the housing bubble that former Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan was busily inflating on the pretext of affordable housing. That bubble was almost analogous to the Works Progress Administration.
Okay.
And so we had a lot of people who should never have been allowed to buy homes. They were buying homes on low doc and no doc loans. There is plenty of blame to go around for appraisers who, if the bank asked what's the house worth,
the appraisers were right in the thick of the whole mess.
Yeah, I mean they were saying the house is basically worth whatever they can sell it for, which is kind of true and kind of misleading. And then of course
a lot of them were saying the house was worth what the bank loan officer wanted to hear too.
Yeah, exactly. And also with the brokers, there were mortgage brokers that had their hand in the pockets, and so that whole sordid mess has now unwound. So we're really in the second depression, and a lot of people I know have written in saying, I've lost more than half of my 401k account. And I tell them, is that all? You've done really good. And people go, what do you mean? I said, well, it's probably going to get whacked in half again.
Yeah.
And the reason for that really has to do with competitive valuations. If you find that in high quality corporate bonds you can lock in yields of anywhere from 15 to 20%, if you do a lot of shopping and you're willing to take a little bit of risk, that implies a price-earnings ratio of the S&P 500, which would be, somewhere around maybe 6 to 1 or so. Maybe 5 to 1 would be 20%. 6 to 1 is maybe, 17, 18%, someplace in there. So that's where the price-earnings ratio of the S&P is going. And even though we will probably, here comes my best guess, my forecast that I've been talking about since September. You ready?
I'm ready.
Back in November and December, I put on the urbansurvival.com website that I was expecting we would have a real serious down leg into the February-March time frame. Then we'd get a nice rally into the summer of hell. And at some point, probably, I don't know if Cliff mentioned the July 18 date, but someplace around.
Go over that again.
Well, okay. Well, I was expecting in December that the market would go down till end of February, first part of March. We've done that.
No, I mean the 18th date. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so what I'm personally expecting is the Dow will zoom back up over 9,000. Perhaps even over 10,000.
I see.
Because I'm expecting we'll get some irrational exuberance and the belief that, our problems are all behind us. Until the summer of hell really starts sinking in, which will happen in about the middle of summer. And once that occurs, then we begin the really, really, really profitable, if you go short, decline, which is unfortunately likely to take us down under 1,000 on the Dow. And a friend of mine who's a very good technical analyst has penciled in 777 on the Dow.
They love numbers.
Yeah,
the players that control, they love it. 777.
It keeps monkey mind busy.
Hey, very good. All right, well, we'll see. Could happen. Back in a couple of minutes with George Ure of Half Past Human Okay, and we're back talking to George Ure about the economy, or what used to be the economy, and some of the fun and games going on at very high levels. The outrageousness of these people in the face of such popular support, it defies belief. But they do it, and the support is not... You'd think that these legions who have backed these criminals would walk. No, they keep... It's some kind of weird, pathetic, virulent codependence, George.
Well, it's actually more than that. It's law. You realize that about 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I started ranting about, if we don't like what our politicians are doing, why don't we simply recall them? Because under most state and municipal jurisdictions, you've got a right of petition for redress in the event of malfeasance or misfeasance of office. And I said, if somebody goes out and spends $9 trillion of cash and future obligations to bail out crooked bankers who should have their ass hung from, who should...
What? Watch those three-letter words.
I'm sorry.
You're right. They should all be strung up by their thumbs and whatever.
No. Who should have their what's on a carpet and be held accountable for their excessive risk taking. I don't even call it rewarded.
Yes, I don't. I think you're right, but to me, it's not a risk when they set the game up, knowing full well when they set it up it would end up like this. It was a scam from the beginning, a massive parasitization of wealth, and it turns out to be the biggest theft in human history. But yeah, you can call it risk, I guess, in some cases.
Yeah, it's risk. Look at these traders who made millions and millions of bonuses.
Yeah.
And their only risk is getting a congressional subpoena.
Right.
And what are the odds of Congress saying, well, gee, guys, you got to give back the house on Long Island and the spendy cars and
and all the hot and cold running women. They used to. What did they?
Yeah.
House has everything, even hot and cold running women. Remember that joke?
Sure. And it wasn't really a joke in some of those circles.
True.
I've been around some pretty fast places on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And those stories, some of them really are true.
Yes, they are.
And what's really outrageous is that the guys in Congress and the Senate in fact, it was Richard Lugar's office requested a research report from the Congressional Research Service in 2003. And essentially the lawyer at the Congressional Research Service concluded that, guys, you can't really be recalled. So we're welcome to make all the phone calls we want to the guys who have gone stone effing deaf.
Yeah.
And even though the phone calls, I was told by one member of Congress, and by the way, one of the few, Jeb Hensarling from East Texas, his staff was telling me that, privately that the phone calls were running 200 and 300 to 1 against any money for the silly bailout for the bankers.
I remember that. Yep.
And yet here's Lugar's office in advance of events, coincidentally, by some number of years, getting these opinions lined up that, if the folks back there in the home district don't like it, too bad, we're here for the duration of our appointments. So that becomes kind of an interesting situation. What happens when the central government is no longer representing the people that sent them there and have become controlled puppets? And I mean that sincerely. Right. Controlled puppets of special interest groups that are running the country through lobbying donations, use of corporate jets, speech honorariums, junkets, and all the rest of the crap that us regular folks ain't ever going to see, and we're going to foot the bill for.
Sure. Oh, and we just continue to come back and take it. There is no mass uprising against this stuff. And there should be.
Not that I would suggest it, because,
I don't mean rioting and killing. I'm talking about mass public unrest and rage should be expressed at every possible moment. This should not be tolerated. These people should have their phone lines burned down with people calling. It doesn't happen, though. America, as you know, George, has been programmed and engineered into a state of absolute, Jimmy Carter's word, malaise. I'm going to be polite. They're dumber than that. It's not just a malaise because it's permanent. It's a status of intellectual decline that has never been seen before in such a short period of time. And you can talk to the young people today and you'll see it. I'm not talking to you folks who are listening here, but you know who I'm talking about. It's not healthy here, George, anymore. It's bad. The media controls. The media absolutely dominates these people's minds, their lives, their psyches, their moral values, their spiritual values, and their social values. That's a general statement, but it's largely applicable to the vast of the legions of the majority out there.
Oh, yeah. George Carlin did a wonderful bit you can find on YouTube.
He is a genius.
It's all government, it's all bullshit, and it's all bad for you.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, if you have a chance to see that video in particular, he nails down a whole lot of truth in a very short period of time.
George was maybe the most, I think, articulately brilliant man I've ever heard in a social, analytical setting. The guy was peerless, just absolutely amazing.
Yeah. I mean, Lenny Bruce and Cosby were great.
Yeah, I think Carlin surpassed them.
Yeah, I think Carlin just nailed so much.
Yeah, he did.
So many times.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah.
Okay.
I wish he were still here. The country was better off for his presence, and he left us, thank goodness, tremendous a legacy of brilliant wit, of satire, but most of all of reality and truth. And you can find it on YouTube. I've got a bunch of his excellent pieces up at Rense.com. I would urge all of you to do some exploring. If you haven't followed the works of George Carlin, Carlin, by all means, do so. And even if you have, go back